During World War II, nearly 40% of all vegetables eaten in the United States came from something incredibly simple: small backyard plots, front lawns turned into food, ordinary families growing what they needed because store shelves were empty and supply lines were unreliable. Those were called victory gardens, and they helped an entire nation survive scarcity without depending on outside systems. Today the crisis looks different, but the pressure is the same. Food prices have doubled in just 5 years. Supply chains break without warning, and the average household now spends more than $10,000 a year on groceries, much of it on food that could be grown at home for a fraction of the cost. The problem isn't lack of land, the problem is lack of systems. This is how you build a modern victory garden using principles refined over decades by people who studied self-reliance when it actually mattered. A system capable of feeding a family year-round from as little as 100 square feet. Everything begins underground. The real foundation of a productive garden is not seeds, tools, or even space. It's soil fertility, because nothing you harvest can be healthier than the soil it comes from. Soil isn't dirt. It's a living ecosystem packed with microorganisms, fungi, bacteria, and tiny creatures that convert organic matter into plant nutrition. When that system is alive, plants thrive. When it's dead, gardens struggle no matter how much effort you throw at them. Here's the shift most people never make. You don't feed plants, you feed soil. And healthy soil feeds everything else. The fastest way to rebuild soil is compost. Kitchen scraps, vegetable trimmings, leaves, grass clippings, and manure, if you have it, all piled together and allowed to break down naturally. When compost is working, it smells like a forest floor, not rot. It should be moist, not wet. Alive, not compacted. A good compost pile needs balance. Carbon from dry materials, nitrogen from fresh greens, oxygen so microbes can breathe, moisture so life can move. Turn it every couple of weeks, keep it damp like a wrung-out sponge, and within a few months you'll have dark, crumbly compost that transforms even poor soil into fertile ground. If you keep animals like chickens or rabbits, their manure becomes one of your most valuable resources. It's rich in nitrogen and minerals, but it must be composted first so it doesn't burn plant roots. Done right, it turns waste into future harvests. This is where the entire system begins. Before planting anything, before building beds. If you get this part right, everything else becomes easier. If this kind of low input, high return thinking makes sense to you, stay with low input living. This is exactly the kind of system we focus on. Once soil fertility is established, the next priority is space efficiency. A victory garden is not decorative. It isn't designed for appearances. It's designed to produce as much food as possible from the least amount of land. Traditional row gardening wastes space. Wide paths, compacted soil, and underused ground limit yields. The alternative is deep beds, 4 feet wide, any length you need, filled with loose, fertile soil that is never stepped on. 4 feet matters because it allows you to reach the center from either side without compressing the ground. When soil stays loose, roots grow deeper. Deeper roots mean stronger plants, better nutrient uptake, and higher yields. In these beds, plants aren't spaced in straight lines. They're planted in offset patterns, allowing leaves to overlap and shade the soil. This living canopy reduces weeds, conserves moisture, and lets you grow 2 to 3 times more food in the same area. In a well-designed garden, nearly 90% of the space is productive. No wasted paths, no unused corners. Just food. Crop choice matters just as much as layout. Not all vegetables are worth the space they take. Potatoes form the backbone of any serious garden. They produce massive calories per square foot and store for months without refrigeration. Beans are equally critical. They produce protein while improving soil by fixing nitrogen from the air. Pole beans take this further by growing vertically and producing for months. Tomatoes, when you choose indeterminate varieties, keep producing until frost and can yield dozens of pounds from a single plant. Squash and pumpkins take space, but they return huge calorie value and store well. Leafy greens grow fast and can be harvested continuously. Root crops use underground space efficiently and can be planted in succession to provide steady harvests. And then there are perennials. Asparagus, rhubarb, and Jerusalem artichokes produce for years with almost no maintenance. Once established, they quietly feed you every season. They are long-term food security planted once. A productive garden isn't about variety for variety's sake. It's about choosing crops that give the highest return on effort, space, and time. This is the kind of practical planning we build on at Low Input Living, where systems matter more than trends. The biggest mistake gardeners make is planting everything at once and hoping for the best. A victory garden is meant to produce continuously, not just during a short summer window. That's where succession planting changes everything. Fast-growing crops like lettuce, radishes, spinach, and turnips mature quickly. By planting small amounts every 2 to 3 weeks, the same bed can produce multiple harvests in a single season. As one crop finishes, another is already growing. No empty soil, no downtime. Relay planting pushes this further. You plant the next crop before the current one is finished, so space transitions seamlessly. Interplanting does the same by combining fast and slow crops together so nothing sits unused. Season extension stretches production even more. Simple tools like row covers, cold frames, or hoop structures let you plant earlier in spring and harvest later into fall. In many climates, this turns a short growing season into 9 or 10 months of food. The final piece that turns a garden into a complete system is animals. Chickens and rabbits close the loop. They eat scraps and weeds and convert them into eggs, meat, and fertilizer. 3 chickens can produce nearly 1,000 eggs a year while fertilizing an entire garden. Rabbits do the same in even less space, producing meat and manure that can go straight into beds without composting. Animals turn waste into value. They transform leftovers into nutrition. And they make the system self-sustaining. When all of this comes together, grocery costs drop dramatically. What once cost $10,000 a year becomes a fraction of that. But the real benefit isn't money, it's resilience. Knowing that no matter what happens to prices, supply chains, or global events, you can feed yourself. A modern victory garden isn't nostalgia. It's preparedness, it's independence. It's applying old wisdom to modern uncertainty. Start small, improve your soil. Choose productive crops. Plant continuously. Integrate animals if you can. And build systems before you're forced to. If you want more practical, realistic paths towards self-reliance, this is what low-input living is here for. Subscribe, stay connected, and keep building while you still have the freedom to do it right.